Hello, everybody. Welcome to What You Need to Know. I am Sybil Wilkes, and I look forward to another fascinating and intriguing and informative session with members of Sisters United for Reform. I thank them for joining us, and I want to welcome to our merry little panel here, Kornisha McGill Brown, who is the national president of Jack and Jill of America, as well as President Valerie Hollingsworth Baker, international president of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. We are awaiting the arrival of President Dr. Johnnetta Cole of the National Council of Negro Women. Before we get started, I did want to give another shout out and a thanks to Cheryl Proctor Rogers for making all of this possible and for putting this all together for us and helping us in so many ways. So thank you, Cheryl. We can never thank you enough, but I'll start off by saying this today, and we will continue to thank you as well. We are talking about criminal justice reform, actually about policing and combating systemic racism and police reform today. And as I mentioned, we are awaiting Dr. Johnnetta Cole. Maybe you think she's still celebrating her birthday? I don't know. But in the meantime, I will give the introductions. Last week we had a wonderful show about sisterhood and women supporting women, and so I want to continue this discussion about not only the sisterhood, but now as we talk about police reform. And this is really interesting today. I think that we just got a story, is just working on a story about the grand juror who was allowed to speak out in the Breonna Taylor case, and which is highly unusual, obviously, but talking about police reform and combating systemic racism in this country. This is just an update and talking about what they were presented and what they were not presented and able to talk about and discuss and determine in that grand jury room. So, with that, let us welcome Kornisha McGill Brown, as I said, the 27th national president of Jack and Jill of America. You've got pretty new on the job as president, aren't you, President Brown?
I sure am, yes. So about 3 months, really.
And,
Yes.
and in this virtual age, things have got to be pretty different than what you expected or what you had been a part of in years past as a member of Jack and Jill and as an officer there, correct?
Absolutely, yes. The pandemic has definitely caused us to pivot in more ways than one in terms of how we are reaching our members and even reaching our communities. But we have adjusted and we are definitely on the move. I hit the ground running as soon as I was elected. So far, so good. We're making great progress.
Well, congratulations on your election. A native of Thomaston, Georgia, you are an educator, a servant leader, small business managing partner, wife, and proud mother of two. And I imagine a proud graduate of Spelman College as well. Uh,
Absolutely.
and you are also a member of several organizations that are a part of this umbrella organization of Sisters United for Reform, as a part of the Links Incorporated, the Columbus, Georgia chapter, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, a board of directors for the Boys and Girls Clubs, as well as auxiliary to the Columbus Fort Benning Medical Society. So we are so glad to have you here, and as a proud president, new president of Jack and Jill of America, an organization that has been in existence since 1938, beginning in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with more than 245 chapters nationwide, and that's is representing more than 40,000 family members. That's awesome. Thank you so much
Thank
again for
you.
joining us. Um, our sister who was with us in the show past is Valerie Hollingsworth Baker, and you are the 25th International President of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority and a native of Brooklyn, New York, and graduating from York Institute as class valedictorian at the age of 14. Who does that? Enrolling at Fordham University's Lincoln Center campus and graduating from there at the ripe old age of 18. That is truly phenomenal. As a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated since 1982, and you've been a member since your induction, and you are a Diamond Life member. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Zeta Phi Beta sorority, founded in January of 1920 at Howard University in Washington, D.C. That would be the real HU. Since its inception, it has continued to climb into the national spotlight with programs designed to demonstrate concern for the human condition, both nationally and internationally, and takes pride in its continued participation in transforming communities through volunteer services of members and auxiliaries. So, with the introductions aside now, let me ask you, President Brown, um, and to give people a recap of what Sisters United for Reform is all about, and what are the organizations that are a part of Sisters United for Reform?
Thank you, Sybil. First, I want to just, again, express our gratitude for these panels that you are hosting. And we want to encourage all of our members to continue to support your work. As a proud
Thank you.
HBCU graduate, as you've already stated, we know the work that you've done for HBCUs as well as for women overall. So, again, we appreciate you in so
I
many ways.
thank you very much for that. Thanks.
Welcome. So, the largest coalition of members from our historic African American women's organization for Sisters United for Reform include Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, The Links Incorporated, National Council of Negro Women, National Council of 100 Black Women, Black Women's Agenda Incorporated, National Cares Mentoring Movement, the Girlfriends Incorporated, Jack and Jill of America Incorporated, Top Ladies of Distinction Incorporated, and Black Women's Roundtable. As leaders of African American Women's Organization, we stand strong and united and ready to condemn in the strongest terms the senseless and unjustified killings of Black women, Black men, Black girls, Black boys, and anyone by police brutality and vigilantes. So we are passionate and united to make change in our communities and in our nation.
And this organization, all of you ladies, the heads of your organizations, came together this summer. Is that right?
That is correct, and I must, give credit to Dr. Glover, who is the visionary behind this movement that we have been able to come together as a coalition. And I also want to say to my immediate past national president, Danielle Brown, over the
Mhm.
summer, she played a role in ensuring that Jack and Jill was represented, in such a great way within this coalition and of organization. So yes, over the summer is where it started, and I know that none of us have stopped since that time. We've had conferences and news reports, and of course, we've also written open letters in different ways to express how we are united and 5 million strong.
President Hollingsworth Baker, could you expound a little bit about bringing, as you were a part of this and bringing the coalition together, and as President Brown mentioned about the stewardship and the sisterhood, and what you all have done. She referenced some of the letters and open letters that you all have put together and published. Can you talk about what you all have done to date?
Oh, certainly. And I want to also thank you for allowing us to be on your show once again. This is so powerful, and we are able to now speak out and be heard, and it's a wonderful thing, especially in this time. So I want to thank you very much, and I also would be remiss if I didn't thank Dr. Glenda Glover for pulling us all together, because this is a mighty tribe. I'd
Yes.
like to say a mighty tribe. That's what
Yes.
I would like to say about it. But we started off with a virtual press conference when we kicked off in June to issue demands for reform, justice, and a call to action on 10 issues, from police reform to candid conversations about race and
Excellent.
systemic racism in our country. We
Mhm.
also, our coalition also signed, as President Brown said, an open letter to Governor Brian Kemp, calling on him to stop his attacks on the Atlanta mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, which was penned by the National Black Women's Leaders and Allies. The coalition also issued a statement expressing our support for Senator Kamala Harris when she was selected by Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden as his running mate. And then we also expressed concern and with the open letter on attacks and blatant disrespect that continued after the vice presidential debate on October 9th. And so we issued an open letter to let Senator Harris know that there are 5 million women across America that's got her back. So we are behind her and Joe Biden 100%. And that is why the tribe has come together, because we're going to be about doing the things that need to be done.
Fabulous. Let us welcome in another member of your tribe, Sister Dr. Johnnetta Cole. Johnnetta Cole obviously is the chair and 7th president of the National Council of Negro Women, as we have said, a noted educator and former president of both historically Black colleges for women in the United States. That would be Spelman College and Bennett College, a distinction that she alone holds. And also, if I may say, happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you, my sister Sybil.
Thank you so much for joining us. I know that your time is limited, but we do want to talk about these situations.
Oh my God. I am beyond embarrassed. I'm
no.
Not only am I coming on CP time, my sisters, please forgive me. Now I am all yours.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this, because you in your writings, in your 2003 book, Gender Talk, The Struggle for Women's Equality in African American Communities, you stated that in the Black community, rape, violence against women, and sexual harassment are as much the legacy of slavery as is racism. Has anything changed, Dr. Cole?
Well, of course, we cannot ever say that nothing has changed when it comes to systemic racism and systemic sexism. And we Black women, as I am sure my 2 sister leaders who I am looking at will testify, we Black women have been victimized by both of these systemic systems. When we look at enslavement, we know that not only was the labor of Black women taken mercilessly from sunup to sundown and into the night, but our bodies were taken. Enslavement involved access to Black women's bodies by those who said they owned us. And so as we come through history, and we like to say, her story,
yes,
clearly there is no longer a system called enslavement. But the legacy of that continues to haunt us. And then I have to say, Sister Shiro Sybil, that while the system that I have described has attacked Black women from outside of our community, we have also had to endure attacks from within our community.
Yes, doctor.
And we all, the 4 of us, know that language that says, we don't air our dirty linen in public. But I remember once reading this line from Angela Davis. She said, you know what happens if you don't air dirty linen? The stench just grows. And so we must acknowledge that internal to Black communities, that domestic violence does take place, that rape does take place. And if you'd like the figures, of course, I could give that to you. But let me stop to say, and now I will use words of James Baldwin. James Baldwin said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed that is not faced. And so we have to face systemic racism and sexism that victimizes Black women. And we have to face that internal to our communities. We are the victims of rape, of domestic violence, of sexual assaults, that we experience this at rates that are higher than what is experienced by white women.
As they say, when they get a cold, we get pneumonia, and it's true in every segment, in every sense of that, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And you know, I have to just say, as I'm looking at my two sisters who work in the same space that I do, think about our girls.
Yeah.
Think about Black girls. The figure is 1 in 4 Black girls have the possibility of some form of sexual violence. We cannot remain silent about this. One of my sheroes, the great African-American lesbian poet, as she would say, warrior, Audre Lorde said, our silence will not protect us. And that's why in every one of these 13 organizations, we refuse to be silent. We are standing up and speaking out about issues that affect us as Black women, but also that affect our families and our communities.
President Brown, let me ask you this, because of your organization and dealing with young Black girls and boys and their families, is this a discussion that can be approached within your organization, and how do you see that happening?
You know, most definitely it can be. You know, naturally, we are, you know, supportive of all issues where we are empowering our young girls as well as our young boys. But we definitely at our regional teen conferences, we have many workshops that focus on, you know, these areas of ensuring that our Black girls, our teens know how to speak up and to speak out when something is happening to them and how to appropriately address these situations, even when talking to their parents, even when talking to, you know, their peers. So it's definitely very important to us. We know that we must empower overall, but there are unique things that are just very, very difficult to discuss sometimes within our community. So we definitely approach it in a delicate way, but definitely ensuring that we know that we can empower them to speak up and to speak out in every way that they can. And we know the statistics, they are real, and we must address it. And that is something that we will continue to do.
That's great. That's so necessary. And let me ask you this, President Hollingsworth Baker, about systemic racism and how it impacts the physical health of African American women, especially. We need you to, yeah, there we go.
Thank you. There are several points that, as we discussed, as our coalition, the access to culturally competent and adequate health care, which raises other issues, as you know, that are rooted in systemic racism. And then there's that dismissal of African American women's health concerns. It's just another factor in this worldwide range of racial health disparities. Also, if you noticed in the medical profession, that they believe African American women have a high pain threshold and have thicker skin. So as a result, these women are reporting pain that tend to like 22% less of the likely prescribed pain medications, because they think we have this threshold that I don't know where they make these things up from,
Right.
but these are things that come and go, and they make us to believe that, and this is what happens. And then, of course, Black women are less likely to be diagnosed with breast cancer. Now that is a big thing, because we are out there highly disproportionate where this is concerned. So we're more likely to die from it than our counterpart. So, and we also face the gender and racial bias. There are so many different points that we struggle on, that every day it's just like a struggle, because these things they continue to grow. It's like a fairy tale that you start to believe, and then everyone else goes along with it. That's why some of these groups, like all of us who want to learn about how the genetics, how we are about medication for us as people, that each and every one depends, because what you may take, I may not be able to take that.
Right.
What Dr. Cole takes, our sister Brown cannot take. But you see, we all go to the same doctors that are saying the same things, and then we believe that it to be true, but then we're the worst off in the end run. So these are things that we look into and we discuss, and that's what we want to bring to the forefront, because we need everyone to know.
And the efforts have to be joint, and they have to be continuous in getting rid of the stress that's on us, this misinformation, correcting all of this, and starting that process of the correct of real news as opposed to fake news, if you will, in terms of all of this, right?
Because the knowledge is important. We have to spread the knowledge, because see, we are living, a lot of us are living in the dark. So it's up to us as leaders to spread the knowledge, to get out there, to make sure that all of our groups come together as one, and we are out there telling people every day, these are the things that you need to know. These are the things that you have to watch. These are the things that you have to be prepared for, so that you know what you're doing with your own health, with your own family, with your own concerns. So that's so very important.
And shine that light. Shine that light. Yes. Yes. We had talked about systemic racism, and it was brought up last week in the Supreme Court hearings for the nomination hearing of Judge Amy Coney Barrett. And she was asked a number of times by a number of those people in that room, the senators, and especially our the vice presidential nominee, Kamala Harris, about systemic racism. And it finally, I mean, it took, senator after senator to talk about this and to get her to give us some sort of recognition of a systemic racism and its place. So let me ask you this, Dr. Cole, in addition to protesting and supporting the movements, what can we as African American women do to address systemic racism in our country? Because it's hard enough to get the point across to her, but how about as we do our work and go about doing our respective jobs in spreading the word and getting people to acknowledge it?
My sisters three, I just have to say this. The moment when Senator Booker asked the Supreme Court nominee if she could mention books that she has read,
right?
If she could mention legal cases referencing systemic racism,
yep,
and she could not. I had to close my mouth. You're going to sit on the Supreme Court where issues of racism inevitably will happen, and you cannot name one book that you have read. Now, the prof in me, the former prof in me, the former, college president in me says, can't you read?
Yeah. Yes.
But I also think that one of the things that has happened in this moment that we are in of pandemics And we all know them. I mean, we could list them. COVID-19, certainly the economic consequences of that, but also this resurgence of a kind of blatant systemic racism that we almost imagined would not be in the public arena. And so one of the things that has happened is that people are reading more. One of the consequences of that is that you can actually hear some white folk using language that easily comes out of our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
White supremacy,
Mhm.
white privilege, systemic racism. And so what can we in our community do? I won't only say that Supreme Court nominee needs to read, but
Mm-hmm.
we can continue to inform ourselves.
Right.
And I do want to mention this book by Isabel Wilkerson,
Oh my God, one of my favorites.
because caste
Mm-hmm.
can help us in our community to really imagine our situation differently. That's number one. We have to remain informed. But number two, I believe, as my two sister presidents do, we as 13 believe we have to pray with our feet.
Mm.
That African proverb that we're all in love with. We have to not only pray for change, we have to organize for change. There isn't one of these 13 organizations that isn't deeply involved right now in getting out the vote, in doing whatever we can in these last few days around the census, of raising the issues that may appear to be specific to one of our organizations, but we all care about those issues. And then the third thing, we read, we act, but we all act collaboratively.
Mm-hmm.
That other proverb that tells us, if you want to go fast, go on, get out there with your bad stuff. Go on, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So I'm coming right back to something that my dearest sister Val was saying. That's why we're organized as 13 sister presidents, because we know that we can attack systemic racism more effectively together than any one of our organizations can manage to do.
Let me just say for folks who may have just joined us and say, what have I wandered into? What am I seeing and being lifted and educated in such a profound fashion? This is what you need to know. I am Sybil Wilkes, and I am just humbled to be in the company of these great women. They are all partners and sisters united for reform. This is the third part of our four-part panel discussion, and we're talking today about police reform and combating systemic racism with our presidents of Jack and Jill of America, of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, as well as the National Council of Negro Women. Ladies, if we could personalize this a little bit and just ask each of you if you have had an encounter recently where you have experienced systemic racism, and how did you respond? I want to people to understand that you all are of a position, but it still happens no matter where you are in this world. This does happen to many of us, and rather regularly, I dare say. Have any of you had any personal encounters with systemic racism lately?
I'll just share, just even when, Dr. Cole referred to, with the pandemic, so many things that just have come to light that in the past we would just kind of overlook. But right now, in terms of just healthcare, my husband is an ER physician, and he's been on the front lines as we have been trying to, just battle the COVID pandemic, and the fact that it's really affecting our community more than anything. And it's just heartbreaking when we know, I live in the state of Georgia, when a governor would not mandate, the wearing of masks, would not mandate that certain precautions be taken because it's not affecting their side of things. So let's open up our state, but not realizing these are our family members. As African American women, I mean, the majority are essential workers as well. There were tough decisions that had to be made. Do I go back to work where I'm required to go, or what about my children? Where are they going to be? Either if we have to send them back to school, will they have to go and attend virtual, online, even being at home by themselves? And that's stressful. And I think no one really acknowledges, I mean, in terms of our community, how this pandemic has really, really impacted us in ways that we could not have imagined. So on a personal level, we've had to just go through a lot to adjust, but we're going to come out better. We're going to come out stronger. And this, in terms of our 13 organizations, we are ready to fight this at the polls when we go vote to make sure that change occurs, that we never find ourselves in this situation again.
May I just say on behalf of all of us watching, and something that we need to do on a daily basis, and thank you and your husband for your service and being out there, for your support of your husband as a frontline worker, and to all of those who are out there doing the very best that they can in the midst of this horrific time. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. Uh, President Hollingsworth Baker, let me ask you, have you had any personal encounter with systemic racism lately?
Well, it wasn't just lately, it was a little
Mm-hmm,
while ago, but my husband is in law enforcement, and he was coming home one evening late, and something was happening in the neighborhood, and I don't know why it made me feel I needed to go outside and just check. And he had parked the car in on our street, and a police car had was driving by. I guess they were in the midst of trying to
mm-hmm,
see what was going on in the neighborhood, and he was the only person out on the street, and they had stopped him. And what happened? What I saw is that he was
mm-hmm,
they were speaking to him, but it was looking like they were stopping him to question him. Now he didn't have on any uniform or anything, but he had
mm-hmm,
his bag. He was coming in, and he said that he's just like they are, because I heard that much, but they seem to not want. They seem to have given him a hard time,
mm-hmm,
and until he had to actually go to show his badge, and then they were still rude.
mm,
And I stood there and I was angry
sure,
because I know that man is out there on the front lines every day.
right,
And I know that they're good and they're bad in law
sure,
enforcement.
sure,
But so we can't paint everybody the same way.
right,
But I knew that if we were in a different area, maybe with different people around,
mm-hmm,
and he was of a different persuasion, they wouldn't have stopped him like that.
right,
They wouldn't have been that harsh, and all kind of surrounded them, because there was like three of them at first.
mm-hmm,
So you could imagine when because I called out and I said, "Is everything okay?" And that's when, uh, they seemed to have stopped, and he was able to show his badge. And I wish I could have done more.
yeah,
You know, I wish I could have said something more, but I was afraid.
mm-hmm,
I was afraid that something would happen to him. And it just seemed to me that at that moment in time, I said, nobody is safe here,
that's right.
because
Yeah.
you could be one of them, and if you're not showing
That's
yourself
right,
quickly, you could be just another statistic.
that's
And
right,
all I thought was, my husband could have been a statistic,
mm-hmm,
and where
wow,
would I have been? So I pray that, you know that's why I'm just so passionate
mm-hmm,
about the things that we get together, and we try to to help to educate, to try to make things better, because it happens to all of us. That it may not happen
Yeah.
all in the same way, but it happens. And if we don't understand it, if we don't wake up and we don't see what is going on, it'll be too late.
That's
That's why
right.
we have to that's why we have to be out on the front lines, spreading the knowledge, letting people know what happens to all of us, because this is a pandemic that there is no rich, there's no poor. It's a pandemic for violence, racism, a pandemic in health. It's so many issues that we are facing, but we as Black people are facing more than our share. So
Absolutely.
we have to be ready and be on the front lines, because we have to make sure that it's better for the next generation.
Absolutely, you're doing that job, and thank your husband too, please, and as well as yourself, for his work and being out there on the front lines as well. What about you, Dr. Cole? Have you had any experiences regarding the systemic racism as president of the National Council of Negro Women?
If I may, Sister Sybil, I would like to take my moments to say that there are individuals in the highest offices of the land who say there is no such thing
Yeah, yeah.
as systemic racism. And my two sister presidents have just given chilling examples of this. Rather than my adding my experiences, I want to say that what happens to one of us happens to all of us.
Mhm.
When the amount of money that is allocated for schools where there are predominantly white students is millions of dollars more than in schools where predominantly Black and brown children go to school, that is systemic racism.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's got to stop. When a Black woman dies in childbirth,
Mm.
many times more on the average than a white woman, that is systemic racism.
Right.
And it's got to stop.
That's
When
right.
Black people are at the bottom of the employment ladder, and we know who's on the very bottom, it's our sisters
Mhm.
in wages. That is systemic racism. When a Black family can count as its wealth only a teeny, itsy bitsy amount of what the average white family counts as its wealth, that is systemic racism.
Right.
When our people must live in housing which is neither safe nor inviting because they can afford to live no other place, that is systemic racism. And so those of us in the 13, the mighty 13, well, that's bragging, okay.
Yeah.
But the Sisters United for Reform, we understand our responsibility to challenge every time someone dares to say, especially from a position of high authority, there is no such thing as systemic racism. We know it as a people, we know it as individuals, and yes, it's got to stop.
That's right. That's absolutely right. I want to thank you all for your time. I know that your time is very valuable, and we so appreciate your taking the time this evening to talk and to speak about this particular issue. And I know we haven't really scratched the surface of the other issue that we wanted to address, and that's police reform. But I do invite you all back to continue this conversation. But as we wrap up, I just want because I am a woman who has such a love of the sisterhood. I was raised as an only child, but I always had my mother's girlfriends, my mother's sisters, if you will, who were a part of our lives. And still, my mother's been gone many years, but I still have her friends and those who are my honorary aunts and play such an important part in my life. And I can only think of how this organization has affected you just in its short period of time. And so I'm going to ask each of you as we close to give a talk about the power, if you can sum up what this organization, Sisters United for Reform, means to you in a sentence or two. So let's start with you, President Brown, I'm sorry, and your thoughts about this organization.
For me, it means intentional support.
Mm,
There's one thing to say that we're supporting each other just by way of, yes, we're all in this together. But when
mhm,
we make that support intentional, that we are representing each other and standing strong, meaning that if you come for one, you are coming for us all. And we are united. And this is just something that I know, even beyond November 3rd. We are going to continue the work in ensuring that our voices are heard and that our communities are better and that we are truly making a difference. And our children are watching, and I am so happy that this organization, this 13, are coming together to represent the best of everything that we can be. So again, intentional support.
that's wonderful. Intentional support. Dr. Cole, I come to you and for you're talking about the power of this organization, Sisters United for Reform. What does, and I'm asking you this as an Bennett Bell, by the way, asking you what this means in terms of the Sisterhood United for Reform.
Well, what my sister, President Brown, has said, I could just say amen and a women to that. It is intentional support. But I want to also take this in a very personal way, if I may. I've been so fortunate to witness sisterhood on that campus that you know so well, my Bennett Bell, at Spelman College.
My president too.
Where
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
I was
That's right.
for it. All right.
We're there.
So both of you know what it is among young Black women. But I'm going to tell you, we who are older, and I am the older by many, many years among the four of us, increasingly in your life, you want sisterhood. You want to be with those women who can finish your sentence. You want to be with those women who don't just have your back, they have your totality.
Mm.
You want to be with those women who affirm your right to be and to be your whole self.
That's powerful. And I ask you, President Hollingsworth Baker, for your final thoughts on what the power of this organization means to you.
Well, I don't know how I can follow after my two esteemed presidents. I mean, you put me on the hot seat here.
Now watch Val come through. Don't listen. Watch.
Okay, but
We know she got the words.
but
We
see,
know that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
but see, I call this, and for me personally, this is. Remember, I talked about our tribe. And Dr. Cole, you weren't here at the time, but we talked. I likened us to the tribe, because a tribal, the way we are, the way we come together, how we are, what we're about, and how we think, and how we come together. Well, this to me is unification of the tribe. Okay, because there's power in numbers, and when you get a group of 13 that now reaches over 5 million members. You have power in numbers. So it's the unification of our tribe coming together as one, making a statement, standing together side by side, showing the world that Black women are together. They're not disjointed. They're not apart. We can think and be strategic in how we're going to go about blotting out some of the things that are happening. We might not be able to get everything done, but I know with the power of the 13, even though some people say 13 is an unlucky number, 13 is a lucky number. 13 is a powerful number because 13 is going to make a wave that is going to carry on, and our power together is going to make our tribe and all those around much stronger than when we started out.
Wow. And you said you did not have the words.
I tried, y'all. I tried to do the best I could.
You
That's all
did
right.
just fine.
I knew it. I knew she was coming through that.
That's right.
I knew it.
Amen.
Positively brilliant. I can't thank you all enough. As I started, I want to finish this with a wonderful member of your tribe and a true sister in every sense of the word. And she has just done so much for us in terms of that. And so I want to thank Cheryl Proctor Rogers about for her
Yes.
just incredible support in what we're doing here with the What You Need to Know newsletter and bringing us all together and providing such support. We really, really do want to uh, go forth and to live the words of what your the president of the AKAs, the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, said. She said, that's what sisters do. And sisters are doing it. And I'm just so proud to have you all here and to be a part of this evening. Next week, we conclude our 4-part series. And that is next week is 1 week before the end of this election cycle. And we will talk about voter mobilization, education, and engagement. And amongst our guests will be the national president of the Girlfriends Incorporated, Margaret Gaines Clark, Melanie Campbell, president and CEO of the Black Women's Roundtable, and Virginia Harris, who is president of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. For those of you who don't know, who may have joined us today and not seen our show before, we are What You Need to Know. We have a newsletter, and it is all consisting of the work of 4 Black women putting this together every day. And we do it for nothing. The newsletter is free, and we are now in the process of trying to increase our subscriptions. And so we ask you to please go to SybylWilkes.com and sign up for the newsletter. It makes a wonderful and informative holiday gift for those of you who are looking for something to share for the holiday season. Please go to SybylWilkes.com, give us your name and your email address, and we will have that newsletter in your email box every Monday through Friday morning, first thing, and then come back in the evening as we have the What You Need to Know YouTube and Facebook live shows Monday through Thursday. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central Time. Thank you all so much. I am so appreciative of you all coming today and being so uplifting and informative and making me proud to be a part of this sisterhood. I thank you all very much. And please join us tomorrow. We will have our Wednesday show, and Thursday we will have our regular show, and after the debate, we will have our roundtable as well, talking about what happened. And Lord knows we have no idea what's going to happen that night, but we will be here on Thursday night as well. Thank you all so much. I appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Sybil. Yeah,
But we're so grateful.
we
No,
are.
I am
Thank you.
grateful. I am so very grateful, and thank you so much. And as I said, the door is always open. The screen is always up. Come on in anytime. You're always welcome. Thank you all so much. Go
Good.
out there. Be
And
careful. Wash your hands. Wear your mask.
that's right. Do all of that.
Yeah.
Thank
Take
you.
care.